Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we have a brand new 2024 Ford F-150 and we've installed a 30-inch light bar. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is remove this top plastic cover. It's all held on push pins, so we're going to get to it. Get a screwdriver underneath it. So now we're going to get to the second level. So now we just lift this up and slide this out. There's one more here. So now we're going to remove the plastic piece and get it out the way. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and remove all the push pins and the front of the grill. So I'm going to start off on the side here. So these, you got to put a little pressure and kind of pry them on all sides. They're a little tight in there, but it's still a push pin. And you can see when I remove it, a lot of little ridges that it has to get through. So these are a little harder to get out. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to remove these two 7mm bolts on each side, and that's going to separate that bottom brow below the grill, so that way we can get to the bolts that are securing the bottom of the grill as well. So now that we remove two on the driver's side, we're going to do the same thing on the passenger. Alright, so now we're going to remove these two. Once again, it's a 7mm socket. Alright, now follow me on the driver's side. Okay, so now that we got all the bolts removed, let's go ahead and unclip it. I'm going to grab the side, and I'm just going to unclip it forward, and just kind of work my edge along the edge of the front of the grill. So this is all just clips. So the last two bolts that we're removing, one on each side, there is a 10mm bolt on the bottom of the grill. There it is. So now we're going to go ahead and unclip the front end. I'm going to go ahead and pull on the trim, and it's going to start separating. The thing I'm going to do is remove these four 10mm nuts. There's one 8mm screw in the middle that we have to remove. And on the bottom of the grill, there's a bunch of push pins. I'm going to go ahead and remove them as well, so that way we can separate the two pieces. It's even easier if you get your prying tool in between. I'll just pry these open. Okay, and we'll set this aside. To summarize what we've done, we've unclipped the bottom trim piece. We've taken out four 10mm nuts on the sides and a 8mm nut inside. Next thing we just have to do is separate the two pieces of the grill, inner and outer. And there's these clips here. What you're going to do is you're going to press on them as you unlatch. See, that one did it. Press on them and it will separate. There it goes. Up, and back. So there's three. So this harness here, so I'm going to go ahead and unclip it here because it's preventing the two pieces from opening up. So I'll unclip it here. We'll be able to install it after. So now that we've unclipped the windshield washer line, we can go ahead and separate the two halves of the grill. Alright, so let me show you how I'm going to install the M&R mounts as well as the light bar. Install the light bar on the top position of the grill. Make sure that the flat side of the bracket is facing towards the center of the grill. To show you another example, if we're trying to bring this bracket down to the bottom, you want to make sure that this side is here, so that way the flat side is towards the center. That's the correct orientation of the bracket. So you can do one light bar on top, one light bar on the bottom, or one of each. So let's go ahead and install light bar on the top portion of the grill. And grab our light bar. We're going to align it where it needs to be positioned. So we're going to go ahead and use the supplied hardware in order to thread the light bar to the bracket. Don't tighten it all the way because we're still going to be using the adjustment rail to align the light bar within the opening of the grill. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on the passenger side. So the F150 comes with multiple types of trim packages and different variations of the grill. They all use the same mounting points here to attach two of the sides of the grill together. So we're going to utilize these bolts to slide our brackets over, but we've made a rail system on the light bar side, so that way we can move the light bar up and down to accommodate various grills. Let's assemble the second part of the grill over our light bar, just to make sure that we have it nice and centered before we proceed with the rest of the install. So I am going to install these nuts. You want to make sure they're nice and tight when you flip it over and check for alignment. Let's take a look. If you're comfortable with the alignment of the light bar, we can go ahead and zip tie the wire behind it and install it back on the truck. If you need to readjust something and realign it, you just have to disassemble it again until you like the positioning. Because I like the alignment of the brackets, I'm going to go ahead and tighten the bolts to prevent the light bar from moving around. And one last thing I want to do before I install it back together, I want to zip tie this cable. Because you do have active shutters here that do move, you do want to make sure that the wire is zip tied to the bracket, so that way it doesn't interfere the opening and closing of the shutters. If it does, it can throw a check engine light for you. So we're going to use a zip tie just to keep it nice and tight to the bracket. I'm going to cut the tail of the zip tie off as well. So now it's nice and slim profile. Let's go ahead and reassemble the grill. And the final test, I just want to make sure that the louvers open and close freely without any interference of the cable. So you can actually open them and close them manually by just sliding this bracket over. So I'm going to go ahead and open it, and you can see nothing's interfering with the wire. So we're ready to install this thing back on the truck. So one thing I want to point out, if you feel like it's not misaligned, you can actually get a small Allen tool and you can adjust it after the light bar has been installed by loosening it, moving it, and tightening it back up. So now that we got the grill installed, we're going to go ahead and assemble everything in reverse order and get it wired up. Now it's time for wiring. The light bar that we've installed is a white light bar. It has two wires coming out of it. You have a red wire, which is the positive, and then you have a black wire that is a ground. If you purchased a dual function light bar, it actually comes with three wires coming out of it. You get the same red and black wires, which is the power to the main function of the light, which is the white, and you have the ground, which is the black, but in addition you have a blue wire, and that's the power wire for the Amber DRL. So if you're using a single function light bar, you're just using one positive from the control module. If you're using a dual function light bar, you just need two power sources that you can also get from the same control module. You just have two different buttons. If your truck is not equipped with auxiliary switches, such as the one we're working on, you can use our wireless wiring controller. If you do have auxiliary switches, then you can tap the power wires directly to them. Let me show you how to connect it. You get your operation manual, you get your stickers for the wireless remote. There's a remote, there's the actual controller, a magnetic pad for the remote. You use the 3M tape to put this pad in somewhere inside the cab, and then it'll just stick and create a base for the remote. You get some mounting zip ties, and we get a bag of hardware. You get a master fuse, and this is 100 amp. You get a fuse holder, and when you take the cover off, that's where we're going to connect the master power wire. So let's go ahead and connect the fuse. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew these two bolts. take off the top washer. We're going to go ahead and slide the fuse here. And we're going to also connect the two terminals. So inside the baggie you get two red wires. This is going to be our power wires. You get a ground wire. Also get an ACC wire. It's an optional feature. We're actually not going to use this ACC wire for this project because the fuse size is different, so we're going to put it away. So now that we're installing the master fuse for the fuse box, we're going to go ahead and connect the two power wires, one on each side. We're going to use the washer and the nut that we previously removed. On the second end, we do the same thing. We're going to connect the terminal. We're going to put a washer, a lock washer, and a nut. One end inside the box, one end to the battery, and there's a fuse in the middle. So let me show you how to connect this wire into this box. Let's go ahead and take off the 4 bolts. And if you look inside, there's a battery plus and a battery minus tag. So the red wire is going to go to the battery plus. We're going to unscrew this. I'm going to slide the terminal underneath it like that, and we can tighten it. Now that the positive is ready, we're going to do the same thing for the ground. It's a small terminal here. So now we have this unit assembled, and we can connect it to the battery of the truck. All right, so now that we're back to the battery, let's go ahead and install the module. On the battery, you have a positive terminal as well as a negative. We're going to connect the red wire, which is the positive. You don't have to remove this bolt, you just loosen it. Just enough to slide the fork under. We're going to tighten it back up. For the ground is not for the light bars themselves. The ground is just for the module to function. So we're going to go ahead and use the battery ground. We're going to slide this under. Awesome. So now we're ready to connect the light bar to the module. If you see the light is either on or blinking, that means it's getting power. The black wire is the ground and the red wire is the positive. So we're going to find power from the module for the red wire, and for the black wire we're just going to put an eyelet on it and ground it to the battery as well. So what I'm going to do right now, first I'm going to take off some of the protective sheathing just with a blade and just isolate these 2 wires. There we go. We can cut this off. All this access is not necessary. For the black wire, we're going to put a eyelid. We're going to crimp an eyelid to it. So I'm going to go ahead and ground it on the battery as well. You can either do the ground the battery or the chassis of the vehicle. Just put an eyelid, put this through, and replace the same nut. Okay, and then for the power, I'm going to install it on switch number 1. I'm going to loosen the terminal. I'm going to go ahead and slide this under. And tighten the terminal back up. So now that we have the ground on the light bar as well as the power, we can go ahead and test out if we wired everything up properly. Now let's go ahead and test it out. So we chose switch number 1 for powerful white light. And if you could take a look, everything is wired up perfectly. Thank you guys for watching. I know you guys are going to love this product, and please tune in for light output videos.